Hello, everyone. We are back again with another Facebook and YouTube Live answering all of your retirement questions today. I hope everyone is doing well. Dave, how are you today?
I am great. It's so exciting. I am so excited to be here. We've got cool weather. Destiny, if you can imagine, it's only like 80 degrees the last couple of days here in Memphis. It's been in the high 90s, so we're excited.
Yes, it's actually pretty cool here as well. We've actually been in like the high 70s coming from the 90s. So I enjoy it a lot cuz like I told you I hate the summertime.
Yeah, and I've just proved that I'm old because all I have to do is talk about the weather. I guess next thing we can talk about is obituaries. Somebody died this week.
Well, we're already talking about retirement, so all right. Well, we do want to thank everyone for joining us today. If this is your first time, welcome. We are always here talking retirement with our expert, Dave Hall. He will be answering your questions and giving some really good advice to help take some action and make a change. I have put together a list of questions for you, Dave, from our social media website, our webinars, past lives, and I have a lot of good questions for you.
All
You
right.
ready?
I am.
All right, let's jump into it. First question is coming from Rodney, and he is a CPA. How much money should I have saved for retirement?
Rodney, great question. Not knowing where you're at personally, I can't really fully answer this question for you, but I will tell you from a government standpoint, they tell us we should have about $375,000 per person on average. So if you're a married couple, you should have about 750. Now, I will tell you, averages only seem to work for those families out there that have 2.2 kids. If you know those families that happen to have 2.2 kids, that's who it's working for. So you got to be careful. Again, if you're above average income earner that has above average lifestyle, obviously you'll need more than that. But again, some guidelines from the government, but I would recommend individual planning to figure out what it needs to be for you.
When is a good time to start saving for retirement?
The earlier the better. In fact, I'd had someone reach out to me the other day asking if they could start on some insurance policies for their teenagers, those in the early 20s. And again, when we look at it, it's all about the buildup of assets and time. Over time, we have the accumulation of growth that comes in from the market, from interest rates, compounding interest that happens. So if we can start 10, 20, 30 years old, hey, that's a great time. Now, unfortunately, I will tell you, Destiny, most people really wait until they're in their 40s or 50s to really get serious about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm like, I'm almost 40. Should I start saving for my retirement? But then I'm also like, you probably should have already started saving for retirement. So yes, definitely
Yeah,
understand.
the challenge we have, and I know you're dealing with it as well. You've got kids, and they take a lot of time, they take a lot of money, resources, those type of things. So many times it's really at the point they get out of the house. So we finally say, "Woo, we got a few extra bucks left now. Now let's see what we can do with it." Oh, wait, retirement's right around the corner. Maybe I better start putting it here. But we really do that. The earlier you can get started, if you can get started, especially coming out of college, start putting into an employer fund, you're going to be in a much better position.
Good. I would definitely tell my daughter that now that she has a job. All right. Our next question is coming from Jerry, who is 53. What is the best way to prepare for healthcare needs in retirement?
Well, that is a loaded question, Jerry. I've got a number of answers that I'm going to give to you. Number one would be take care of yourself. That's the best thing. If we can prevent a problem, that's the best option. Keep our mind sharp, take care of our bodies. So whether it's walking, jogging, golf, walking the mall, whatever it might be that you do, keep yourself active there. Another option would be your health savings account if you happen to have one of those. I do encourage people to build those up, not spend the money, invest it well. My understanding is Fidelity has the best option. I've talked to a number of people who do HSA investing, and they all keep coming back saying Fidelity's got the best option out there. But invest that money, let it grow. And then when you get into retirement, you've got a pool of money you can use. And then the other one would be to just make sure you've got a line item for it in your budget. It is going to cost you a substantial amount of money. If you've got health issues in retirement, average male is going to spend about $150,000 in retirement on healthcare, average female 135,000. So yeah, I'm glad you're asking about preparing, but there's a number of things you're going to be able to do and should do.
What exactly is a HSA and what is the benefit of having one?
Yeah, health savings account is an account that can be piggybacked onto a high deductible health insurance plan. So if you've got a plan where you're going to have to come out of pocket primarily because you've got medical expenses that aren't being covered and they meet certain criteria, you can put a health savings account in place. And the purpose of it really is to be able to not pay tax on that money, to be able to get a benefit on your tax return for what goes in there, and then not pay tax on it coming out if it's used for healthcare costs. But many people are finding that it's a much better option for later on in their lifetime because there's no statute of limitations, Destiny, on the way these work. Meaning, if you had something today, you put money in a health savings account, let's say that your daughter ended up having a medical emergency and it cost you $1,000. If you could pay that out of pocket and then keep that receipt, you could reimburse out the HSA 20 years from now. I mean, you could be in your retirement years and saying, okay, I'm going to save the money for then in case I need it. And you get there and you're like, I'm pretty healthy, not having any issues, or get in position, you may have some chronic illness and you don't expect to live very long and you've got a bunch of money. Hey, let me reimburse all these expenses that I paid decades ago and get that money out tax free. So a lot of flexibility with the health savings account, why I like it. Problem is most of us can't get enough money in there as much as we'd like to be able to fully cover all those costs throughout our retirement years.
And what's a recommended amount to have in an HSA?
Yeah, really. And again, when we look at it, I would say as much as you can. Again, $150,000 on average for a male in retirement, 135 for a female. But again, most people struggle to build them up that large. Now, there's a group of people out there that has done a great job of investing. They've max funded their account every year now for a decade or more, and they could have a substantial balance inside of there. But most of them I see, most people running $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 maximum inside of those accounts.
Sounds good. All right. Our next question is coming from Rebecca, and she is a CP. When is a reverse mortgage a good idea for a client's retirement?
When they understand what it is and can realize it's going to benefit their retirement. That may seem like a bad answer, but when you look at it, one of the problems that we have with the reverse mortgages is many people buy them that shouldn't, because an advisor or someone else tells them they need to have the product. And then they get into the product, they pay all the fees, they get everything set up and go, wait, this really probably wasn't the best thing I should have done. But if they can understand it and realize that it can help them, for most of them, it's cash flow. If you look at it, if you can look at most retirees, the biggest asset they have is their house. So all of a sudden you're sitting here and you've got Social Security you're living off of, you don't have any other income, but you got a $500,000 house and you're saying, well, I don't even really want to transfer this house to my kids. Maybe you don't even have any kids that you need to transfer it to. But I have to have a place to live. So what are my options? Well, a reverse mortgage may be a great way to get that equity out while you're alive, be able to supplement your Social Security. And then when you pass away, the house is sold, the debt's paid off, and whatever's left goes to your beneficiaries.
What exactly is a reverse mortgage?
When we look at it, there's one main one. It's a home equity conversion mortgage. Many people don't realize, because we see all these ads on TV, a ton of them out there. Tom Selleck has been promoting them for years now. People always ask about his ads. They look at it and think it's some private company. We've got all these bad stories where people have got into reverse mortgages that have not benefited their retirement. But the main reverse mortgage is a home equity conversion mortgage backed by the federal government. And the purpose of it is to be able to borrow money off of there without having a payment. So it's really designed to allow you to have an income stream versus what we would call a traditional forward-facing mortgage, like you would have on a house. If you had a credit line where you would be making payments each month to bring that balance down, on a reverse mortgage, the balance is increasing each month. So today you may owe $10,000 on it, and then next year you end up getting money out of here. Now you owe 22, and then you owe 44, and it just keeps growing over time as you're taking money out of the equity. And again, with the purpose to try to provide income stream for you on an asset that really isn't very productive for most people, because we do have to have a place to live.
Cool. All right. So we have a question from YouTube Live from Elliot. Hey, Elliot. All right. Do you need to have health insurance in order to contribute to an HSA plan?
Elliot, good to have you with us again today. The answer to that is yes, and it has to be a high deductible plan. So you also have to confirm with your insurance carrier, does it meet the criteria for you to be able to have a health savings account? Many people come to the false belief that the IRS just will never check this stuff, that, hey, it's not a lot of money, $7,300 maybe from a family plan that's going into one of these. IRS isn't going to check in. They do it. So be aware that you do need to meet the criteria. You do need to make sure you've got a high deductible plan. And if it qualifies, then you can make those contributions.
Sounds good. All right. So our next question is coming from Arlo, who is a CPA. Currently, I am 63. Is now too early to look into Medicare plans?
Arlo, absolutely not. And I'm glad you're thinking of this early. Unfortunately, most people wait until they turn 65 and they think there's just this automatic switch. You go over to the light switch, you turn it on, and all of a sudden we've got Medicare for the rest of our lives and everything's wonderful. That is not the way it works at all. There are choices you have to make with your Medicare. If you want it to start when you turn 65, you have a 3-month window before your 65th birth month that you can get signed up, and you'll need to do that in order for the benefits to be able to start when you the beginning of the month you turn age 65. So no, 63 is not too early. We recommend beginning at age 64. Again, you can never too early to learn about the way these programs work, but by 63, really need to start looking at the two paths: Medicare, original Medicare with a Medigap plan, or Medicare Advantage plans. You're going to have to pick one of those, and the earlier you can figure that out, make sure your doctors are inside of the network they're going to use, whatever plan you're choosing, and you can afford the premiums or whatever it may cost you. Better off you're going to be at age 65 when you have to make that final decision.
Sounds good. All right. Our next question is coming from Michael, who is 68. What is the best asset that may still show investment growth?
Wow, you are asking me to be a prophet, and I am not a prophet. I wish I could project out when we look at it. I will tell you from a small standpoint, the I bonds are amazing. If you haven't seen the I bonds, you can only put $10,000 into the electronic version per year, and you can use your tax refund to buy $5,000 of paper bonds, but they're returning over 9% right now. So if you look at them, and they're indexed to tie into inflation, that's why we've got such a high rate of return right now. But for a small amount of money, it can be a great thing. Now, on the other side, if we look across all of the markets of what's going on, most advisors I talk to believe we're going to have a full crash of the market, and not only from the stocks. Obviously, the bonds have been in the toilet for the last number of years. We've got cryptocurrency that's hitting the toilet as well right now. And even real estate, many people are saying there's no way it's going to hold up. Well, if we take all of that, and even precious metals have proved not to be great over time, we say, hey, it isn't necessarily how are we going to get the growth? How do we protect our asset? So there are a number of principal protected products out there where you can protect the asset. If the market goes up, great. Hopefully it does, and the investment you're in. But if it doesn't, at least you're not going to lose your principal, which creates problems because now you've got to earn twice as much to get it back. Again, if you lost 10%, now you've got $900,000 on $1 million investment, and you get 10% rate of return. We don't have $1 million. You have $990,000. You didn't get back to where you originally even started. So.
All right. Our next question comes from Rachel, who is also a CPA. What is the biggest benefit to having an annuity?
I would say a longer life if you're someone who enjoys living here on this earth. Now, that being said, there's no scientific proof to show why we live longer, excluding the fact that I guess if we want to get those annuity payments, if we have something out there that guaranteed to pay us for as long as we live, and maybe we have less stress, we end up living longer. Those who have annuities actually end up living longer. But to me, the biggest thing really beyond that is the peace of mind. Saying, look, think of it right now, Destiny. If you're looking at it right now, the market's been down 20, some of them 20, 30%. Again, Bitcoin was at $60,000 at one time. Now it's at 20. I mean, you've had some huge drops in the market, and there are people out there that are freaking out going, look, what's my retirement going to look like? These are my retirement assets. If this stays this way for 2 or 3 years, I'm in trouble. Well, if you're getting a paycheck every month, which annuity really is, once you've annuitized it, you're saying, okay, the market's in the toilet, but I still get my $5,000 every month from my annuity. Do I really care? Am I up watching the stock market every day and stressing and panicking? No, you're not. You're just saying, look, my check comes in, my Social Security's there, my annuity's there. So it's really a stress-free retirement, which in the end, again, ends up in a longer life because you don't have to sit and worry so much.
Can you explain what an annuity is?
Yeah, so basically, when we look at, there's multiple types of annuities. My one that I'm a big fan of is the fixed indexed annuity. But this is where you're putting a lump sum of money in, and can do it over time. It just becomes a sum of money with an insurance carrier, and then they're giving you a promise that they will give you a set amount of money for the rest of your life based upon the terms of the agreement. So if you like Social Security, a good way to look at it would be Social Security. Again, Social Security works exactly the same way. If you like Social Security, you should love annuities. You put money in throughout your career through taxes. You pay them in as an employer. We pay them in. It grows. And then when you get to a certain age, starting at 62, going to 70, you get a pick and you choose when you're going to retire and take those benefits. You get X dollars. Annuities are structured the same way. And again, this is where I don't understand why people are so against these, especially the new ones. Again, some of the older ones were high fee, never progressed because they had so much risk inside of them. But you look at what they have now. I mean, who doesn't want guaranteed income that they just don't have to worry about the bills every month? We've spent our whole careers. I mean, Dustin, we'll go 30, 40 years working, getting a paycheck and loving it. And then we get to retirement. It's like, oh, let's take our pool of assets and hope we can figure out what we're going to do to get us through here by just randomly pulling money out each year.
Wow. All right. So our next question is coming from Stanley, who is 69. When should I take my Social Security benefits?
I was going to make a joke here, but I won't. Again, 69. And again, the joke would have been wrong. I said, hey, you should have taken it at 62. That isn't true. Really, Stanley, for most people, it's age 70. Now, please don't wait beyond there. You've got 1 year left. Age 70 is when most people should take their benefits if they are the highest income earner in their family. And there's some expected longevity there to live to life expectancy, because it's going to allow you to get the most benefits that come through the delayed retirement credit. And if you're married, would be also be able to be transferred on to a spouse if you were to pass away before they did. So 70, but don't wait beyond that, Stanley. 71, you don't get any more money. 72, you don't get any more money. You're just losing out on benefits you could have gotten.
All right. Our next question is coming from Emma Lou, age 57. Is there a way to plan for future tax rates now?
Yes. Now, again, when we look at it, we've got to understand that we're just taking the information we have, and that information can change. But when we do planning, that's really all we can do anyway. If you look at inflation, yeah, we're in high inflation right now. I believe we'll go in a period of deflation and then we'll level back out again. So based upon my belief system, that's how I plan. When we look at taxes, we know January 1st, 2026, we're going to go back to what tax rates were in 2017. And we know what those were. We know what the brackets were. So we can use that to calculate. We also know top economists are coming out saying, look, taxes are going to have to double at some point in the future. We can't afford to pay the bills. Well, when does that day come when we can't afford to pay the bills? Well, it's all math. I can look out there and say, hey, we're at $30 trillion in debt right now. I believe somewhere between 2028 and 2030 will be at 60 trillion. We're at right now, let's say we're at 1.5% interest rate. We get to a 3 or 4% interest rate at that time. Guess what? All the money we have coming in is just enough to pay that interest. We got a problem. We can't cut spending. We've proven we can't print money and make it work. So we have to increase taxes. So as we look at it in our own lives, yes, Emmylou, I believe we can calculate it out with some reasonableness of saying, hey, this is what we expect to happen. Now, if it doesn't, great. We're in a position to where we don't have to give as much to the government. But I do believe there's enough information out there that we can get a reasonable idea of what we should be doing for ourselves.
All right. Our next question is coming from Beatrice, who is 63. Will having a higher withdrawal rate shorten the life of my retirement funds?
Yes, but that being said, if you have a plan, it may be okay. So again, when we look at it, obviously, the quicker you take money out of anything, the quicker it's going to fall apart. And even with the plan, if you take 10% out instead of 8%, obviously the money's going to go away faster. But when we look at it, average distribution rates right now across the country, what's being promoted by most advisors, right about 3%. Some are as low as 2.5%. But if you have appropriate planning, you may be able to get 6 or 7 and still not run out of money any faster. So again, it'll run out faster than if you took 3 from that plan that you put together, but it may not run out faster than what you had in place before that was not going to work that well for you, that now we've been able to get you a higher distribution rate. So when we look at, again, more about planning, Beatrice, than it is about the distribution rate itself, because if we can get the right planning, we may be able to get you 6, 7, 8%, where otherwise, if you took that out of a plan where you didn't have all the safety nets put in place, yeah, you may run out of money 10, 15 years, and you may have a life expectancy of 20, 25, 30 years.
Wow. All right. So our next question is coming from Sylvia, who is 65. How can I make my money last until I am 95?
Yeah, just hide it in the mattress. Let it sit there for 25 or 30 years, I guess. No, that I don't recommend either. Mattress isn't a good place, although it's not a bad idea to have quick access to some cash. I proved it for myself in Puerto Rico when everything crashed and you couldn't get into banks or other places, had to wait in line for hours at an ATM if you wanted cash. Nice to have some on hand. But for someone like you, there's got to be either, again, guaranteed income. How can you make it last? Get yourself in a position where you got guaranteed income through Social Security and an insurance company. It's going to last 105, 125, whatever, based upon however long you live. That's what the contract guarantees. So in order to insure it, you've got to have some security on the income, not just the asset. Again, you could be at age 85 and have $2 million of assets, but if they're all invested in Bitcoin and all of a sudden it goes to zero, you're in trouble. Or if it's invested in real estate and all of a sudden the real estate market takes a crash like it did in 2008, you may not have enough money left to be able to get through those next 10 years on what's there and have to spend down. So again, look at guaranteed income. That is really how we get through retirements that are 20, 30, 40 years.
All right. So our next question is coming from Desmond, who is a CPA. Will my tax bracket change in retirement?
Probably, and unfortunately for some of you, it may go up. Now, this is not something that people promote out there. Most financial advisors and CPAs promote that you're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement because they take the first part of the equation. We're in our working years, we're making 100% of whatever it is. We get into retirement, we're supposed to live off of less than that. And most of us can't. Most of us is going to be 70 to 80% of what we're making. So you're saying, okay, if I made 100 grand this year here, and now I'm in retirement, I'm living off of 70,000, obviously my taxes have to go down. Well, what people don't take into consideration are all the deductions they had during those working years. Take someone like yourself. You've got 2 children. I've got 8 children. You look at, child credits, you look at education credits, you look at money that's going into a 401k plan or IRA going into retirement. When you get into retirement, that's gone. So also, though your gross income may be lower, taxable income may actually be higher. So yes, it will probably change, Desmond, but I don't know without looking at your facts and circumstances to know whether it's going to be for the better and you'll get a lower rate or for the worse, and you may be in a higher bracket because of all these lost deductions.
Okay. So our next question is coming from Benji, who is 66. Should I use different products to leave behind inheritance to kids and grandkids?
The best thing you can do, Benji, if you want to leave money behind, is to leave them a life insurance. You can buy it for pennies on the dollar. Many policies out there. I know I've got one myself that I end up paying about 15 cents on the dollar of what I'm going to be able to give to my kids at some point, and they will end up getting that policy. It's not one I plan to use during my lifetime, but that is the best way to be able to transition money, because not only are you getting it at a discount from what's being transferred, tax-free growth, tax-free distribution. So it's not like an IRA that you've got that you're building up and then all of a sudden you give it to the kids and they lose 30% or 40% to the government because the taxes haven't been paid on it. So again, this is what I would look at if I were transferring assets over, definitely insurance products to be able to do that in an efficient manner.
Sounds good. Okay, so our next question is coming from Helen, who is a CPA. Is drafting an estate plan really that important?
Well, let me ask this question, Helen. If you were going to build a house, would it be important to have some architectural drawings to build that house? I've got to believe that the answer would be yes. Pretty hard to come. I've done it. I built a home. We had a home in Utah that we did the architectural drawings for. We designed it all out. It was our dream home. We unfortunately ended up leaving it when we moved to Puerto Rico. But you need to have those plans to get what you're trying to accomplish. So if you have somewhere you want to go in retirement, and again, I would say yes, you got to have an estate plan. Now understand with tax rates and stuff of that nature, and how high the exemption is when you pass away. Yeah, maybe you don't need to include in that a bunch of tax planning. Maybe you're in a position where the tax consequences of your retirement aren't going to be that bad, but we need to figure out who's going to be the trustees, who's going to get the assets, how much are we going to spend, how much do we have to spend. So absolutely, Helen, I would say you need to have an estate plan, which would include your retirement planning, to make sure you've got a roadmap to get you where you want to be. And again, the real questions is what do you want your money to do while you're alive, and what do you want your money to do once you're gone? Once you answer those questions, then you put a plan together to get where you want to be.
All right, our next question is coming from Briar, who is also a CPA. What are the repercussions of working part-time during retirement?
Yeah, great question. A lot of it depends on when you retire. So let me talk through as many of them as I can. Again, probably a lot I'm going to miss here because there are some goods and some bads of working through retirement. If you're full retirement age from Social Security, understand if you work and you exceed, I think 19,500 roughly is where the cutoff is. If you make more than that, you're going to have some Social Security benefits reduced if you've taken Social Security benefits. Now, hopefully you're waiting and that's not going to be an impact, but you need to understand it could impact your Social Security negatively in the sense that it could get taken away for a period, but positively, if you don't have 35 years of earnings, it could make your benefits higher in the future. Now, from another positive side, if we look at it, working can be one of the best things to help our retirements last longer, because now you've got a situation where not only are you bringing income in, but oftentimes you're not having to spend down the assets you already have. So as you look at it, again, unless you're getting high dollar payments, again, someone that made $1 million before you retired and your part-time income is now $500,000, and it's going to affect Medicare and it's going to affect Social Security and going to affect all of these things. For most people, it really becomes a very good thing, and it keeps you sharp. I have a number of people that are in retirement that are CPAs that are working part-time during tax season. And the biggest reason they say they're doing it is they want to keep their mind sharp. It's forcing them to stay active and engaged, and they love what it does for them emotionally and physically.
Okay. All right. So we have one more question from Wilder, who is 72. Am I able to donate a required minimum distribution?
Yes, you are. They are talking about changing the rules on this. I wouldn't consider myself an expert on the way these charitable required minimum distributions work, but they are available. There is a certain limit to the amount of money that you can do on an annual basis, and they are talking about increasing that amount for the future. But yes, you can. And for some people, this is one of the best things they can do if they've got other assets that they have, that maybe a Roth account or a life insurance plan or something else where they're getting assets. And here they have this 401k IRA that's having a required minimum distribution is going to get taxed. One of the best things they can do is just donate that, eliminate the tax consequences, and then be in a position to where hopefully none of your other income is going to get taxed.
All right. So, David, looks like we're just at our 30 minutes, which means the show is almost over. As always, I had a blast with you today. But before I let you go, any final thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, I want to jump in here. Elliot, thank you very much. You'd put 100,000 as the annual limit on a qualified charitable distribution. So thank you very much. They're talking about increasing that. Elliot may know if it goes up to 130 with the new Secure Act 2.0. Again, apologize. So many things I keep track of. It's not one that's really been on my radar where I don't do the planning and have to implement those distributions for people. But with that, again, biggest thing we always tell you, be active with your retirement. Not only from a financial standpoint, but from a physical standpoint. This should be a great time for you. This should be a time, again, many of you look forward to for decades. Don't turn it into a disaster because you didn't plan, because you didn't have a roadmap, because you didn't take care of yourself. You need to put the work in now. And Destiny's in a position at an age she can get started, get things put together. Her daughter definitely at an age that can get them put together to where these can be great times for us rather than a period of life that we dread, like so many people unfortunately do now because they don't have the money. It's not a lot of fun if you get to retire and say, hey, I can do everything I want to do, but I don't have enough money to leave the couch. The only thing I can afford to pay for is television. And so I pay for it, but I don't have money to go eat. I can't go to the movies. I can't travel. Well, you really didn't get yourself where you wanted to be.
Yes, sir. All righty. Well, that is our show. Everyone, thanks you for joining. Dave, like I said, it's a blast. And see you guys later.
Okay. Goodbye, everyone. See you next week.